Good morning and welcome to Better Thyself segment of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Life is a never-ending series of decisions, and we have to take a decision on everything. And often we are faced with a harmless dilemma, to be or not to be. And here it is, to take or not to take a decision or not to take a decision. And the decisions can be of various natures. As a child, it might be who to play with at the recess, who to take to school dance. Later on, what subject to major in, where to go for happy hour, where to live, whether to be a friend or not to be a friend. So it's a never-ending series, and that's a problem. You grow up, you want to relocate across the country, for example, for a job. And much of this decision taking is very difficult, as a comment by Mr. Singh Jaspal Amritsar says, you have to take it every day. Yes, I agree, not every day, but every hour. Weighing option is essentially very hard due to uncertainties. And the most important thing while taking a decision is our bias. We always develop psychological bias. We favor prejudices for or against. And they can lead us astray. These biases could include overestimating the likelihood of something happening to you or underestimating the consequences. Like, you want to make a big purchase. Would you be ripped off, or is it perfectly okay? You are a victim of a crime. Is the purchase going to be something based on that? So, this underestimate or overestimate is the problem. The second problem, whether decision making is hard, is a propensity to overweigh the instant gratification or the instant pain of a decision over the long-term consequences. You want to buy a house. You buy it. An instant pain may be that the house is just a lemon. So it's a long-term consequence. You might have gone food shopping hungry only to realize that you purchased that could pass for an actual meal. Nothing that was important. You were hungry, so you made impulse purchases. But the sheer number of decisions that require attention can be taxing. Decision making is making harder when you have more choices. If you have no choice, it's a Hobson choice, you take it or you leave it. It's not that difficult. But if you've got hundreds of choices, and in this age of advertising and publicity, they can actually bamboozle you. It can be hard to actually do the work necessary to cut through the noise and the clutter to get the information when you have a large number of choices to make. It's exhausting, mentally, physically. So what to do? Here are certain steps which can help you, enable you to make decisions. First is, zero in what you really want. Impulse buying is okay for some time, but if it's a major decision, you've got to zero in. You want a job. You've got to zero in what your career matrix is like. You have to marry a person. You've got to decide what sort of a mate you want. Without clear objectives for what you want to achieve the decision, you might focus on the wrong things. So, I would say, ask yourself, what do I hope to achieve by addressing this choice? Focus on aspects that are not easily quantifiable. That's the biggest thing. If it's quantifiable, it's easier. If it's not quantifiable, then you focus on those aspects. And this can be applied to major decisions very important, but even to minor decisions. For example, where to go for dinner with your friends. So if your goal is to have a meaningful conversation, you should choose a quieter setting. If one of your friends needs to go home to leave the babysitter, you should offer a spot near their home. So these are small things. Major things, you want to relocate. Would you be able to adjust in the social system? Would culturally you be able to adjust? Would the competition or the races, some other factors not be there? So when it comes to bigger things, the approach works very well. For example, you have got 4 job offers. So which one to take? Is it just of salary? Is the work-life balance? Is the commuting time? What are the benefits? What are the perks? So these things you have got to weigh in, and that you can do once you have zeroed in on what you really want. Second thing is, do not dwell on small choices. Don't waste time about ordinary things, small things. They'll take care of themselves. That old concept of take care of pennies and pounds will take care of themselves is not applicable. It's worth taking your time, your energy to settle larger decisions. Don't spend too much time and energy on small stuff. What happens is people get freaked out by thinking, I have to take all the responsibilities. I never get through the day. Why? What to take for lunch? What to wear for the office? Who to have drinks with? Take them as most unimportant things. And if you can filter the small choices and the major choices, you would find that the 90% of your choices that you are faced with have no meaning in life. Don't stress about the quality of your decision making on the small choices either. Although the term decision fatigue, and I'm using it, the more decisions you make the day, the more likely you are likely to make bad ones, is right. So take less number of decisions. The ordinary things, the routine things, let them come as they are. Minor things. Having to make 10 choices a day versus 2 choices a day does not mean that your 10th choice will be worse. There's no evidence of that. So don't spend too much time thinking about, say, you're going to have ice cream with your friends or with your children or family. So whatever does make, go in for the flavor which everybody wants. And I've seen people arguing which flavor should be there. It's not relevant and it's not pertinent. So learn to ignore and let the thing go on. Then another thing which is very important is decide as much as possible in advance. In some cases, making a decision before you actually do in a specific scenario may be difficult, but in major decisions, there's always a time. You are applying for a job, even at the time of application. Should you apply or not? And once you have applied, would it fit in your career matrix? Would it fit in your culture? Would it fit in your tradition? Would it your mental makeup? Would it fit with your work-life balance? Would it be okay for your family, for your social group? And you would see that the outside forces would be eliminated if you can decide in advance. For example, simple. You are going shopping, armed with a list that can help you get everything you need. And not just 3 cucumbers and some cheese. Choosing how much money you are comfortable spending ahead of a night out is important. There's all sorts of situations where in the heat of the moment you might make a decision you later regret. But pre-commitment to a plan that can prevent you from getting into those urges could not be that bad. Another point where you got to get a second or a third or a fourth opinion for big stuff. Go by your hunch first. Go by your logic, yes. But there's no harm in using sounding boards. Don't let them make a decision. Use them as a sounding board. Because when you take a major decision in a vacuum, there can be something which may not be clear to you. So get a handful of opinions, ideally from the people with prior experience with the subject in hand. And the more expertise they have, they are likely to base their evaluation on a bias. But that bias of, say, you are asking 3 people, they might cancel out each other, and then you might have a new insight. And that is helpful. But talk to these people, take their opinion, but don't talk to them in a group. Talk to them individually. When you're talking to a group, then each one influences the others, and some real good stuff that might come to your knowledge might be suppressed. So take their opinion without any outside influence and still make your decision. Another factor we have to keep in mind, and it's a very important factor, be mindful of your emotions. Emotions have got a bad reputation for negative influencing decision making. That's ridiculous. Absolutely bullshit. Emotions are very important. If you are not happy, if you are not contented, how can you enjoy your decision? It's impossible to divorce emotions from logic. I am very clear about that. The key is to understand how emotions are impacting your choice. For example, it's not a good decision and it's not a good idea to take a major decision when you are grieving or you have just got into a fight with your life partner. See, you're not going to be in the best headspace. You should make a decision. Understand that, for example, anger makes us take more risk than can help crystallize your thoughts. You are angry, so you say, hell with it, I don't care. And my wife was remarking the other day, and I loved it. She says, anger is danger, with D being silent. That's great. So, that such emotions, the negative emotions, will enable you to take either more risk or not take any risk at all. If you're grieving and say somebody very close to you, that you would say, oh God, what's this life? Why care? And that why care would get you in a doldrums. So, it might help you crystallize what you want to use aggressively. For example, you're going on a ride. You're driving on the highway. And somebody cuts you on the highway. You get angry. And you start tailgating that car. So that's because of anger. You might not have increased the speed. So that decision is definitely born out of anger, and it can be dangerous. Realize your emotions are pulling you in a certain direction, and that will enable you to be better equipped to accept these feelings for what they are. So do not suppress your emotions. I am not saying that. But wait for them to crystallize, to balance down, and then take a major decision. For example, instead of sitting in rage when your boss left you off at a meeting, reappraise it. Tell yourself that they were in a big hurry and didn't realize they forgot to add you. Another tactic is called expression, which can be like getting all your emotions, write them down. This is something very important from a decision-making perspective. This might like complaining to a friend about your frustration day at work and then revisiting the idea whether you actually want to quit your job. I've seen people quit their job for no reason at all and then faced with the unemployment, faced with the domestic issues, they review. So always take time and let your emotions not overrule your logic. And the next point, be thoughtful how you use pros and cons. One thing I've seen is all these gurus tell you, prepare a list of pros and cons, what's good and what's bad, and okay. But they're not really that simple. All lists are based on a very complex and very subtle beliefs and memories. They can be a useful tool, I'm not denying it. But when you force yourself to spell out the good and the bad in every choice, you have to slow down and think about your priorities. So what is good for you at one time may not be good for you for the other. For example, whether you want to skip, I'm taking a very simple example. Your friend is getting married, but there's a high cost of attending the marriage ceremonies. So you prepare a pros and cons list, should you go or not. Now, if you value your friendship, your goal of putting more money into your saving may be a bad idea. Savings are important, but you losing a friend may not be a better idea. So your actions, your decisions should be authentic representation of what you really need. And a pros and cons list can be helped way in use that only as a tool for zeroing in what you really want. The first thing which I said, zero in what you really want. Then don't take the decision at the end. Take the decisions as an opportunity. Your decisions must not be taken as protective measurement meant to prevent you from making your choice life worse. You can make choices and make good choices which make even ordinary life look a heavenly life. Deciding to take up a new course, forming a book club, can be net positive that can enrich your life. What decisions can you make to make your life more interesting in future is important. If you think some alternatives, your life didn't get worse because you decided to think of that. So these few steps would enable you to take a better decision which will be contributing to your becoming a decisive human being. People think me to be a quick decision maker, 1 minute decision maker. But it's the thought process that has contributed to that, shifting logic from emotions. And I do it automatically. It's a processing of the mind. But I zero into what I really want. Not that I don't indulge in impulse. But all these 6 points that I have given you would enable you to be a better decision maker and then face the millions of the decisions that you have to make in your life. Hundreds and tens you might have to make every day. And the sooner you are a competent decision maker, the better you shall be. Thank you.